Hi there, Shutterbugs. Today we'll be going over the Canon walkthrough of both the mirrorless system and the DSLR. Let's get started. So, literally about 10 minutes ago, I discovered after over 2 hours of recording this video last week that I didn't double check my mic and I didn't have audio. But that's okay, because the second time around, it's gonna be even better. So you guys have asked in multiple videos for a more detailed camera walkthrough. That is what I'm here for today. So we've already done a Nikon one. I really wanted the Canon one to be next before I did anything else. So I have other footage, but I was being stubborn with myself. And I said, I gotta post this one before I work on anything else. And I am finally getting to it. I'd like to say this is the reason that I haven't been motivated to continue on with YouTube, but that is just an excuse. I think it is just me getting to a place where I'm just itching to get to it again. So, hi there. Glad to be back. It might be a slow start. It might not be every week like it has been in the past, but it will hopefully get there again. So I appreciate all your patience and all your dedication to staying subscribed to the channel. And of course, along with this channel, I do still offer personal help, tutorials, one-on-one sessions and classes. If you have questions and you need them answered, or you want a personal walkthrough of your camera so you have the ability to ask questions as we go through, you can absolutely contact me regarding that, because there are so many questions that are posted in these comments. I just don't have the time to get to them all right now, and I feel terrible about that. I hope to eventually, but I know some of you guys, it's a time thing. So do know that I do offer those services as well, and you can always contact me. But other than that, let's go ahead and let's dive on in. We're going to go over the mirrorless system first. Now, going into this mirrorless system, I'm going to basically explain everything, and then when we jump into the DSLR system, I'm just going to go over, I'm going to quickly say that, yeah, these are the same as the mirrorless, and then the ones that are different from the mirrorless system that the mirrorless system does not have, I will go over that in more detail, kind of mentioning that along the way. And just remember, you guys asked for this. It's a in-depth, detailed view of the menu. So here we go. The first tab that you see here is going to be your camera tab. This, of course, is going to be for, your live shooting mode. So tab 1, page 1, you have your image quality, which of course is going to be your RAW or JPEG. You also have cropping and aspect ratio, which allows you to do full or crop, which is actually the first time that I believe Canon has offered this option. Usually this is like a Nikon option, but for the first time they're offering you both EF and EFS crops built into the camera itself, which is awesome. Then on page 2, we have your exposure compensation with your auto exposure balance. This is going to be for adjusting your exposure. So +1, 2, 3 stops, -1, 2, 3 stops in menu, but there are places outside the camera that you can do this as well. You have your ISO speed settings, which allows you to set your ISO, allows you to set a limit on auto, which I go through with you in every Canon walkthrough. There's the HDR PQ settings, which is PQ refers to perceptual quantization. You ask me what that meant on an everyday basis, I would not be able to tell you, but apparently it refers to the gamma curve of the input signal to display high dynamic range images. It captures the image as HEIF or a raw image. So it's a little bit more advanced than your typical HDR image. It's supposed to, I guess, give you more values, more options. And of course, HEIF is something that's also new in our digital cameras. It's something between a RAW file and a JPEG, where it's compressed and takes up less room like a JPEG, but holds, I believe I was told that it holds more detail than a RAW image does. I have yet to play with those hardcore, but yeah, that would be a lot of fun to play with, but I wouldn't be reliant on it, naturally. You have Auto Lighting Optimizer. This, of course, is to adjust brightness and contrast. It corrects automatically if shots are too dark or contrast is too low or high. So another, almost like an HDR setting, I would say, very close to that. You have your Highlight Tone Priority, which improves your graduation from white to gray. You have your anti-flicker shoot. That's going to assist in consistency and exposure and colors and flickering lights, such as fluorescence. You have your external speed light control, which is for use with select EL, EX series speed lights on camera. And then we go to the next page here, which is going to have white balance. That's your temperature control. We have your custom white balance, which is going to be your setting a specific Kelvin temperature. That's what white balance is, and lights in general are set to, is a Kelvin temperature. We have your white balance shift bracketing. That's adjusting by blue, amber, green, and magenta by choosing bracketing options if you would like to do that. You have your color space, which you have the option between sRGB or Adobe RGB. As someone who has been a frequent Adobe user, I even stay away from Adobe RGB, especially because recently I've been dabbling in Capture One. So sRGB is pretty universal. I would stay in that range. You have picture style, which is going to be preset options to adjust colors and clarity for specific scenes. You have clarity, that's a softer image, sharper image. You have lens aberration correction, that's correcting vignetting and distortions in camera, which a lot of, like Adobe themselves has a lot of those settings to assist in correcting those distortions as well. You have long exposure noise reduction, which that's going to be in camera. Now, it does take a little bit of time for it to do that in between shots, so you do have to wait a little bit before you can take your next long exposure. Now, up until recently, I was like, oh, who needs that? It just takes more time. I want to take more pictures. I'll tell you exactly what it's good for. It's good in like almost pitch black situations, like out here in Alaska when you're trying to do Northern Lights photos. Because while Adobe has they automatically pick out hot spots and noise in the photo and kind of clear that up upon upload, a program like Capture One, not so much. And so I was actually shocked to see the difference between using the long exposure noise reduction in my camera and not using it upon upload of a different editing program. Then you have your high ISO speed noise reduction. This is going to erase. This, of course, is going to also be something in camera to help it prevent noise when using high ISOs. Then you have your dust delete data, which is going to erase dust spots from images. This is really good if you're in a bind, but keep in mind, this is not for like a permanent fix for every picture ever. You need to clean your sensor if that's the case. If you're getting dust spots on your images. Then you go to the next page and we have multiple exposure. This is going to allow you to merge 2 to 9 images as you photograph, which is really cool. It's a little artsy sort of way of photographing, so you have that feature available. You have HDR mode, which takes 3 images, standard, over, and underexposed, and then merges them together. You have focus bracketing, which enables continuous shooting and adjusts focal distance, and then you merge it in post. So that's something to keep in mind. So when you go and do your focus bracketing, and you go and put your card in, keep in mind that like you're going to have a bunch of pictures. You need to have an editing program that allows you to merge those. Then you have interval timer. This is to control how many shots and how much in between each shot until it reaches the desired number of shots for you to choose. You also have your bulb timer. This is once it's set to bulb mode, you can set a time of how long you would like the exposure to be, which is really neat. You don't have to like have a stopwatch and hold the button, something like that. It allows you to be a little bit more fancy on that. You have shutter mode, which allows you to pick your mechanical, electric, first curtain, or electronic shutter, which just allows like no shutter sound, because that click click that you typically connect with taking a picture on a camera is usually the mirror going up and down. And because this is a mirrorless, you don't get that. So you can actually eliminate that sound completely, which is nice. And then you have the release shutter without card. That one's pretty self-explanatory. If you would like it to take pictures without a card in it and not save it, or to not take a picture and just say, hey, there's no card, totally your call. You have, on this page, you have the image stabilizer mode. That, of course, is to turn stabilization on or off. You have touch shutter. This is touch screen to shoot. You have image review, which is to have the image show up on the screen as soon as you take the photo, if you would like to turn that on or off. You have high-speed display. It allows you to be able to smoothly switch between shots and live view mode when taking high continuous images. And you have your metering timer for how long you want your exposure locked for, your exposure simulation, the accuracy and exposure brightness. You have shooting info display. This is to customize what you want to see displayed on your display screen. You have your viewfinder display format. You have one of 2 options. You have your display performance, power saving, or smooth, which is just consistent. You have your movie record quality, which is HD or 4K, plus your frame rates that you can choose from. You have sound recording, audio, or manual. You also have movie ISO speed settings. Pretty obvious there too, is what you want your ISO set to in movie when doing video rather than photos. As well as your movie auto slow shutter, which helps to reduce video noise in low light and low shutter speeds. And then you have your shutter button function for movies if you want it to be pushed halfway or all the way to record. And in case you guys are wondering, this was used, or this camera I believe is the R6 for the R6 walkthrough. I believe so, because those are Christmas nails. That was around Christmas time. Then we have the autofocus tab. That, of course, is all about autofocus. So the first page there, you have autofocus operation, which is one shot or servo, otherwise known as continuous autofocus. Autofocus method, your autofocus area, plus your face and eye detection. You have your subject to detect, which people or animals. You have your eye detection, which is on or off, continuous autofocus, on or off, movie servo autofocus, on or off, touch and drag autofocus settings, basically use your screen to autofocus. Your focus mode, which is autofocus versus manual focus. You have manual focus peaking settings, which is like the color you want to outline what's in focus and the strength that you want that to be. So here, yeah, you see you have peaking on, how high you want the level, and you can choose red, yellow, or blue on the R6. You have next focus guide, which on or off zoom to assist. You also have autofocus assist beam firing, which is again on or off, just an LED light that shines out to help assist in focusing if it doesn't detect enough detail. Then on page 3, you have servo autofocus, specifications case 1, 2, 3, 4, and auto. You have 1 for multi-purpose, 2 for tracking, ignoring obstacles, 3 for focusing subjects entering the autofocus area, and 4 fast slowing subjects in the frame. Then you have lens electronic manual focus for lenses equipped with electronic manual focus on the lens. You have 1 shot autofocus release prior. This is to prioritize focus or release timing for 1 shot autofocus. You have switch tracked subjects. This allows you to specify how easy the camera switches to another subject or not at all. You have lens drive when autofocus is impossible. That's an on or off option. Lens will try to find precise focus. Limit autofocus methods. This allows you to customize which autofocus areas are basically an option for you. Autofocus method selection control, which buttons, orientation linked autofocus point, change it or keep horizontal, vertical. If you want it to stay the same, whether you go vertical or horizontal, or if you want it to change. You have initial servo autofocus point for your face focus. This is selecting the starting point. Then you have your focus ring rotation, which direction you want it to focus in, which is kind of nice. The RF lens manual focus ring sensitivity, how sensitive you want that ring to be. And then you have sensitivity autofocus point select for the rear dial when moving your autofocus point. Then we're going to jump into the playback tab, which of course is for pictures you have already taken, to review those pictures or do what you want after you've taken the photos. Going into the first page there, you can protect your images, which allow them to not be accidentally erased. You have erase images, rotate your stills, change movie rotate info, which side you want it to appear on. You can rate your images on a 5-star rating. You can do image copy. This allows you to copy from one card or to another card or folder. You have print order, print images recorded on card according to the instructions you give, which is kind of neat. You also have photo book setup. You choose up to 998 to be printed in a photo book when using EOS utility, so you have to use that program. Then you have on page 3 raw image processing. That's of course in camera if you'd like it to process those images. You have resizing, JPEG or HEIF to reduce the pixel count. Cropping, you can do that in camera. You can also do an HEIF file to JPEG file conversion in camera as well. And then on the 4th page, you have slideshow. So you can set to do a slideshow if you're plugging in the HDMI cable. Want to set it and it'll just kind of rotate through. You also have set image search conditions. So you can search by rating, by date, by folder, protected, or file type. The magnification, how much zoom you want it to zoom upon using your magnifying glass button. You have image jump with the top wheel, how many you want it to jump at a time using that. And then switching your top wheel for your back wheel, change regular function to new playback functions. You also have your rate button function. You can assign image rating, protection, or voice memo in playback to the rate button. You also, in the 5th page here, you have playback info display. This allows you to select what you want to be seen. Again, all very highly customizable. And then you have highlight alert, whether you want that on or off, autofocus point display, on or off, playback grid, on or off, movie play count, the record time or time code, if you'd like it to show that. And then you have your HDMI HDR output to view RAW or HEIF images in HDR when you're connected to an HDR television through HDMI, which is really neat. Then we have the network tab. The network tab allows you to connect to the EOS app through Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connections. So you connect through that top option there. You can turn your airplane mode on or off. I had been told in the past, I don't know if this has been remedied or if it's still an issue, but airplane mode, turning it off allows you to save just a little bit more extra battery on your camera because it wasn't seeking a connection all the time. So, with mirrorless cameras being, having limited battery in comparison to DSLRs, knowing that and keeping airplane mode off when you're not ready to transfer your images is always a nice little practice there. You have Wi-Fi settings that you can turn on or off, Bluetooth settings, on or off. You can give a nickname to your camera so that is changeable, doesn't have to stay as EOS R6. You have GPS device settings, connecting to phone or GPEZ device for GPS. Image transfer using the app, that is the most effective. In page 2, the only option you see there, get to it, going too fast there, Heather. You have reset communication settings, so it's just reset. If you're having issues, whatever that may be, or you're selling your camera, you want to reset the communication settings, you can do that. So the next tab we have is going to be the settings tab, the little wrench that you see there. So the first option you're going to see is record function and card folder set selection. You have file numbering, continuous or reset. I recommend just keeping it on continuous. A file name, if you want to change the file name. Formatting your card, I go through that in every camera walkthrough. You have auto rotate. You have add movie rotate info, a play in orientation that they were recorded, essentially. Date and time zone, if you want to try this. And that was done in 2020, so it's been a while since I played with the R6. You have on the second page, come on Heather, get through. See, I go through formatting your card quite a bit. Okay, so on page 2 you have language, which always you'll find from camera to camera, it's always with what follows the word language is a little face with a text bubble. So if you do accidentally change your language that you change to a language you don't speak or understand, you can find language followed by that head and text bubble every time. So that's where I change the language back to whatever your chosen language is, which is really nice. Video system. So you have NTSC, which is for North America, Japan, South Korea, and Mexico. And then you have PAL, which is Europe, Russia, China, and Australia. So don't change it to PAL if you're in North America, because it's going to be pretty useless. Mm-hmm. Then you have help text size, which is kind of nice. You have your beep, if you would like to have the beep be turned on or off. Headphone volume, power saving mode, you choose eco mode, which is like a 2-second dim or a 10-second off or off. And then you have on the next one here, screen viewfinder display. So that gives you some options. Screen brightness, viewfinder brightness, screen and viewfinder color tone. Fine tune viewfinder color tone. I wouldn't advise to fine tune the color tone, honestly, unless you really know what you're doing. And then you have UI magnification, which is your magnification menu screens. Then here on the next page, we have HDMI resolution. We have touch control, multifunction lock, which basically which items you'd like to lock. Shutter at shutdown, which in the newer mirrorless cameras, the R and the RP didn't have this option, but basically these have the options to have like a shutter curtain, and you can close that upon turning off the camera. That way, if you were to remove the lens, it gives you a little bit more protection to that sensor. It's not just out there in the open like some of the other mirrorless cameras. Then you have sensor cleaning, which allows you to clean now, which basically just shakes the shutter to knock any dust off, or manually clean it, which I don't recommend manually cleaning it yourself. Again, unless you really know what you're doing. Don't just look up a video and go, I know how to do it. Take it to a shop, have them show you if you really want to do it yourself, if you think that you're going to be shooting in a lot of dirty areas, dusty areas where that might be commonly an issue. But for the love of goodness sakes, please don't clean your own lens with, trying to be the hero of, I know exactly what to use. Because I've seen so many sensors ruined by that. On the next page here, you have reset camera. So resetting all the settings in your camera, in case you've been playing with something, now it's doing something funky. Resetting your camera is always kind of the fastest way to go. Custom shooting mode, so your C1 through C3 options. You can set those right on that option there. Battery info, so it shows you the remaining life, shutter count, and recharge performance, which is awesome. Copyright information, you can actually enter in your info for copyright. Manual and software URL. Certification logo display, and the firmware to check to see if it needs to be updated. So you can go to the Canon website and check what model your camera is and what version they have released, and see if the numbers match, see if you're up to date. Okay, so now we're on the custom menu tab. This is going to give you all of your custom options. So the first option there, we have exposure level increments, which is typically by the thirds, but you can choose halves as well. You have ISO speed setting increments, again by thirds. Typically, you would on your manual ISO, you would choose third or one stops. Auto ISO will always choose third stops. For example, 400 to 800 is one stop, 640 is a third of a stop. So like 640 is not typically a real ISO when it comes to full stops on your ISO range. So if you want to go classic and I want to go like one stop ISOs, you can set it to that. You just wouldn't be able to use the auto option. Then you have a speed from metering ISO auto. This is to restore auto after metering or to retain that information. You have bracketing, auto cancel. Oh, this is really fast, sorry. You have bracketing, auto cancel, keep on or turn off after your camera's turned off. You have your bracketing sequence. You can arrange the order of 0, it's standard, overexposed or underexposed. You have number of bracketed shots, so you can choose 2, 3, 5, or 7. Safety shift, if that is on, if your subject's light changes and the exposure cannot be obtained within the auto range, the camera can change shutter speed and aperture and ISO to allow it to try and keep that consistency, which is kind of nice. On page 2, there we go. You have same expo for new aperture. This helps maintain the same exposure if the lens is changed. You attach an extender or use a zoom lens with a variable max aperture. You have auto exposure lock meter mode. After focus, this allows you to choose which metering modes you would like the exposure to lock while the shutter button is pressed halfway. Setting shutter speed range for manual or auto. Setting aperture range for manual or auto. You have dial direction during TV or AV, left or right. Control ring rotation, left or right. You have customizing buttons, selecting button, then function, same as dials, selecting dial in which mode, and then function. And then you have clear customized settings, which is basically just resetting them. Then you have your page 4, which is add cropping information. Display shows vertical lines for selected ratio to prepare for specific print sizes. So if you're, say you're taking pictures specifically for a gallery or a show and they're like, we need it this ratio, you can have it display those lines to show where those cutoffs will be. You have audio compression. When off, quality is higher, but files are larger. You have default erase option, which option is highlighted upon hitting erase. I recommend keeping it on cancel so you don't accidentally erase an image. Release shutter without lens. That's really helpful if you hook this up to, say, like a telescope. You have retract shutter with retract lens on power off. For example, that's with lenses that are applicable, like the 40mm. You have add IPTC information. This is, hold on, International Press Telecommunications Council info. You got me. I don't know what to tell you. This is from the EOS utility software. It's supposed to help with file management. If you have found that helpful for you in the past, feel free to put in the comments how that specifically has been helpful. And then on that last page, you clear all custom function settings, which is just to reset to default except for your custom buttons and dials. And then the last tab that you have there for the mirrorless system is going to be your My Menu tab. This is going to allow you to add to My Menu tab. This basically allows you to condense anything that you've seen in the entire menu that we just went through, and you want to just take certain parts of that and add it to one tab. You can do that. That way you're not digging, which is kind of nice, but you also have like shortcuts on the outside of the camera body, so you don't have to go through the menu at all. But basically, yeah, you have the Add My Menu tab, which allows you to add a page. You can delete all my menu tabs page, delete all items on all pages, and then you have the menu display, which allows you to have the normal, which just allows you to see what was last viewed on the menu, or allows it to dictate that My Menu tab is the default and only my menu is displayed. So that is what that will do. Now, before we jump into the DSLR menu, which again, I'm going to kind of be like, okay, we went over this on the mirrorless for certain settings that match. We're going to go ahead and see a little cringeworthy commercial that I put together for a amazing product that I've been reached out to review, and therefore this will be my first commercial for you guys. I hope that you enjoy it, and we'll get right back to it. Hi there. When you're a photographer, if there's anything that you have plenty of to accompany your cameras and lenses, it's camera bags. If you're a new photographer, give yourself some time. You'll soon find that you'll have a collection of your own. And why do we have so many bags? It's for every occasion, for every shoot that we could ever go on. For example, I have my wandered bag here for any heavy travel. I have my donkey bag for any casual day use. My ProMaster bag for any heavier casual day use. I have my tactical bag for any city use or even weddings. It's a little bit more, it's black, slim, formal. But now I have my Canon Concepts 20-liter bag for all of my all-day casual adventures. You know, something that's not obviously a camera bag. This bag comes in fun colors like green, orange, blue, and they still have the basic black if that works best for you. It's made from rain repellent nylon and has waterproof leather bottom. It's not super bulky and it's easily accessible from the side with extra battery and card storage, and open storage on the top for my other must-bring items. You can set in all your gear from the back, which I love, and move the dividers around as needed. With the side pockets perfect for a water bottle or tripod, I can easily carry what I need for an all-day adventure without feeling like I'm traveling cross-country. So check out K&F Concepts today. If not to add another bag to your collection, then maybe some other accessories to help your passion soar. You can use this promo code to save off your purchase today. I appreciate your time in watching that. I do recommend going and checking out their site. Like I said, I was really happy with the backpack overall. I'm still really happy with the backpack. It's one that I commonly choose if I'm going somewhere because it doesn't obviously look like a backpack or like a camera bag. So yeah, I mean, check them out. They got all sorts of different products. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and jump into the DSLR menu. So the DSLR menu, this one here is gonna be the 5D Mark IV when I went over that. So you can actually see a major difference in time because I did this walkthrough before I did the R6 walkthrough, like probably a year difference. So like the background's white and I'm wearing a Samsung watch and my nails aren't done, and my nails aren't done now. But either way, you can definitely see a difference here. So going over the DSLR menu, you have, as you can see, very similar structure, if not exactly the same, because you have the same options except for one tab. The first tab is your shooting menu still. Number one is still image quality, the same as the mirrorless. Now, the different one that you see here is dual pixel raw. This is while using the EOS software, you can micro adjust the position of max sharpness and resolution using the captured depth information, but you have to use the EOS software. I haven't used the EOS software, but apparently that will get you superior sharpness by doing that. They kind of save the best for themselves there. Now, the only other one on this page that isn't on the shooting menu of the mirrorless is beep. Because beep is like somewhere else on the mirrorless. But other than that, the rest of these I believe are the same. I'll point out when they're not. You have image review, release shutter speed without card, lens aberration correction, external speed light control. Those are all the same as the mirrorless. You have exposure compensation, you have ISO speed settings, auto lighting optimizer, white balance, custom white balance. Again, that's all done in Kelvin. White balance shift and bracketing, color space. I recommend keeping on sRGB. You have interval timer, bulb timer, anti-flicker shoot. Now here's one that's different because naturally with the mirrorless, you don't have a mirror. So here you have the mirror lockup. You would use this to clean the sensor manually instead of sensor cleaning, which is what is found in the mirrorless system. Then we have on page 5, you have another option that is not on the mirrorless system, and that is live view shoot. That's because with mirrorless, everything is live view. Plus the live view shooting on DSLRs is not as accurate as DSLRs because it wasn't designed to do live view 100%. So that's something to keep in mind. Then you have autofocus method. Now, the mirrorless had the autofocus method, but it was on their autofocus tab, so I'm not sure why their autofocus method is not on their autofocus tab. Not sure why they made that decision, but apparently they corrected it in the mirrorless system. You have touch shutter, that's the same as the mirrorless. Grid display, they didn't have that option in the mirrorless option. That's to help you keep your images balanced, use your rule of thirds, stuff like that. You have your aspect ratio. I actually didn't see that one in the mirrorless either. So you have like 3:2 or 4:3 is more common, but you also have 16:9. You have exposure simulation, which is the same as the mirrorless. It basically shows you a histogram. And then on page 6, you have silent live view shooting. You have mode 1, which the sound is suppressed. Mode 2, one shot until shutter is reset. And disable is nothing is suppressed. Now keep in mind this silent shutter, it's not completely silent. That's why they say it's suppressed, because you can't stop that mirror from clacking. That's just part of the DSLR experience. And then of course you do have your metering timer, which is the same as the mirrorless as well. Then you go into the autofocus menus. So page 1 features a autofocus configuring tool with cases 1 through 6 from a versatile multi-purpose setting to consider objects moving into the frame to track erratic subjects. So you have different options there, similar to the mirrorless but not exact. You have AI servo first image priority. Well, set on AI servo, the setting you would set the importance to release, focus, or balanced. AI servo second image priority, again, you would set on continuous shooting, you would set the importance to speed, focus, or balanced. On page 3, you have lens electronic manual focus. Very specific lenses have this feature to make it usable. That's also an option on the mirrorless system. But again, that the mirrorless probably has more options than the EF systems do. The autofocus assist beam firing, that's on the mirrorless, as well as the one-shot autofocus release prior. You have your lens drive when autofocus is impossible. That's on the mirrorless. Now selectable autofocus point is not an option on the mirrorless. Not in this way anyway, but you essentially choose from one point to a large zone. You have selectable autofocus area selection mode. This is choosing which point option should be options. The mirrorless has that in a way, as well as the autofocus area selection method, how you want to choose your autofocus area, whether you want to use a button or a dial. Orientation linked autofocus point. This is the same autofocus area point or different for vertical or horizontal. Same as the mirrorless there. And you have your initial autofocus point, AI servo autofocus. This is set the starting point for the autofocus point on or auto on a wide area. Then you have autofocus point select EOSI TRAF, which is using the subject's face or color info. It uses intelligent tracking and recognition. So it's EOS intelligent tracking autofocus essentially. Page 5, you have autofocus point selection movement. This stops at the edges or it continues to the opposite side, kind of like Pac-Man. You have autofocus point display during focus. So you have selected points to focus, all, pre-autofocus, select area, or off. You have viewfinder display illumination. Autofocus points will light up red, auto, on, and low light, or just on or off. Because unlike the mirrorless, it's a screen, which is the same screen that you see on the back of your camera. Here, you're seeing a direct reflection coming through the lens hitting that mirror, so you just get a little illuminated box. You have autofocus status in viewfinder, in or out of the field of view if you want to see information. You have autofocus micro adjustment. I would avoid this unless you really know what you're doing as well. I just hate to, it's so hard to tell if you're absolutely focused on a 3-inch screen. So I wouldn't do any micro adjusting. That's just me. Then we are in the playback menu. So pictures you've already taken. A lot of these are going to be just like the mirrorless. So you have protect images, rotate images, erase images, print order, print photo book setup through EOS utility. You have raw image copy from to another card or folder. You have raw image processing, cropping, resizing, rating on a 5-star review, slideshow, image transfer, image jump with the top dial. Now you have your highlight alert, autofocus point display, playback grid, movie play count. You also have magnification. Now control over HDMI, that's the only difference that you're going to see in the playback menu from the DSLR to the mirrorless, really, in what these options are here, is that control over HDMI is not on the mirrorless. Then you have your settings. Notice that we don't have a network tab here. I believe the network would be found in your settings tab, if anything. Doing there. Okay, so you have record function, card, and folder set. That's also found on the mirrorless, as well as file numbering, file name, auto rotate, and format. Then, after I talk a million miles a second about formatting, you have auto power off. That is not something that is found on the mirrorless, but you can actually set a time for when you'd like the camera to power down. You have LCD brightness and LCD color tone. Those are found on the mirrorless, just under, I believe it's under the custom menu, if I'm not mistaken. You have your date time zone. You have language with the little guy with the text bubble. Your viewfinder display. This is a different display than different display options than you'd see on the mirrorless, naturally, because it is a different display completely. You have touch control. That's also found on the mirrorless system. You have video system. So you have the NTSC or PAL. You have battery info and sensor cleaning. So same thing that you would have here. But this sensor cleaning is the automatic sensor cleaning. You'd want to lock the mirror up with the other option, I believe. Or no, I'm wrong. The locking the mirror up previously, in, I believe it was the shooting menu. I believe that's to assist you with using a DSLR for like microscopes, or not microscopes, the telescopes, stuff like that, where you'd want to expose the sensor. Sensor cleaning here, I believe, gives you the option to lock the mirror up. I believe so. If you guys are looking through, click on them for me. Let me know. Then you have the info button display options. This is not an option on the mirrorless system. You also have custom quick control that basically revolves around your quick menu. You have the info button live view display options. Not an option on mirrorless, because naturally mirrorless is always live view. The rate button function, now that's found in a different spot on the mirrorless than it is on the DSLR. HDMI frame rate. GPS settings, that's again something that is a little unique to the DSLR because it doesn't take the same GPS product, I believe. I believe it's a different GPS device that you have to hook up to it because it's not built in. There's not a lot of cameras that are. You have communication settings, which I believe is going to be your network. It's going to be the communication between the camera and the phone. You have on page 5 multifunction lock, that's on the mirrorless. Custom shooting mode C1 through C3, that's on the mirrorless. Clear all camera settings, just said differently, pretty much. But that's your reset. You have your copyright information, certification logo display, and firmware, same as the mirrorless. Then you have your custom menu. Again, a lot of these are going to be the same as the mirrorless, so you have your exposure level increments, ISO speed setting increments, bracketing auto cancel, bracketing sequence, number of bracketed shots, safety shift, same exposure for new aperture. Those are all going to be the same. Setting shutter speed range and setting aperture range, same as the mirrorless. Now on number 3, warnings in viewfinder. That's going to be different from the mirrorless. On the DSLR system, you have a circle with an exclamation mark in the center. It basically lets you know when settings clash. When something's like, hey, this is not going to work together. Then you have live shooting area display. That's also going to be different from mirrorless because, again, mirrorless is always live view. You have dial direction during TV versus AV. That you'll find in the mirrorless. But custom controls, basically the same as the mirrorless, just they broke it up by buttons and dials. Here you're just assigning your buttons. And in page 4, you have, same as the mirrorless, add cropping information, default erase option, retracting lens on power off if the lens is applicable, adding the IPTC information, and then the last page there on your custom was clear all custom functions. And then the My Menu is the same too. So I add My Menu tab, delete all My Menu tabs, delete all items, and then if you would like it to always display your menu, display your My Menu first, or by default go into the last thing that you were on the menu. Whew. Okay. That's it. And I'm double checking. My mic is working. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for sitting here with me and going through this. I nearly screamed, but you know what? I was like, you know what? No, I need to take care of this right now, or I might just quit this completely. And that's not fair to you guys. So thank you so much for sticking with me. I hope that you guys are doing well. I hope that you guys are loving your cameras. Again, if you need one-on-one help, you need to ask questions back and forth, have a conversation with someone, go through a walkthrough with your camera, learn something new. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe you need somebody to walk you through Alaska and take wildlife photos. I'm trying to work on some workshops right now, so keep an eye out for those. And then again, check out K&F Concepts for not just their bags, but all of their accessories as well. Until next time, keep your eye out for inspiration shutterbugs. Bye.